Hi and welcome to today's tutorial. Today I'm going to be unboxing and reviewing the Camel watercolor tubes. This set has 12 shades and I picked this up for INR 100 on Amazon. So this one tells that it creates a nice, you can create wash with it, you can create texture, you can create a collage, different things I've mentioned. The shades are mentioned over here. So what we're going to do right now is unbox this and see how these colors are, whether they are vibrant, and we'll also test them against watercolor sheets, and we'll create a beautiful painting at the end of this video. So stay tuned till the end. These watercolors are about 5 ml each, the tubes. So let's begin the unboxing process. All right, so this is what the case is like. It's a paper box that has been created, and here are our tubes. And they have an entry label for a Camel art contest. So I think if you're interested in something like this, you can. So I think this is also meant for students in school. So it talks about like below first standard, and then it's up to 12th grade. So these are, so it's not mentioned anywhere. So I've been trying to see whether these are artist grade or student grade. Since it's not mentioned anywhere, I'm assuming that these are student grade. So this is what the tubes look like. I like how the color is there on top, and it's like a nicely well done, well designed one. So let me show you one. So this is what each tube looks like. It mentions that it's watercolor, it mentions the shade, and it also mentions the shade number over here. Each one is about 5 ml. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create tiny swatches of these, and we'll test it on watercolor sheet. Otherwise, you'll not be able to know how beautiful the colors are. So let's start putting them out on a small palette. We'll mix it, and then we'll make an interesting painting at the end. These are handmade palettes that I made out of Fevicryl hobby clay. I'll soon put up a video of the same in terms of how to make these. So let me just zoom out and we'll start creating the swatches. So the first color that I'm choosing is the Prussian blue. I'm going to add a little bit towards the end, and we'll create our gradation and see how these colors are. So this will also help you to understand how to use a tube. Whenever you're using a tube, make sure you always have a palette, whether a ceramic palette or a plastic palette, anything would do. Add a little bit at the end of the well. These are called as wells individually. Add a little bit of color and then add water to it. If you add less water, you will get like a really dark consistency. If you add more water, you will get a diluted color. So I've added a little bit of color. I'm adding some water now to gradate it to see how the colors are. I really like how the gradation happens. So from my personal experience, the ones in tubes, they always gradate much better as compared to the ones with our cakes. So this one here is a Prussian blue. I feel like it's still a little light. Let's see if we can get it a little more darker on the top. So I'll also mention probably the colors. The first one here is a Prussian blue. The next color we've got is a cobalt. So I'm going to test this color out now. On the palette, they're looking pretty similar. There is a little bit of difference, but not a lot. I think on the screen, it's a lot more than what it is actually. So that's interesting. The next is a mauve. It's an interesting choice of color because when you have like just 12 colors, I haven't really seen this shade being part of the 12 pack. So one thing of the colors that I have created so far is the gradation is very smooth, extremely smooth. So that way I'm quite happy to see the quality of these colors. So you will get sometimes a liquid that comes out like this, and it's very normal. It's basically the preservative. So you'll probably just have to wait to get the color out after that. So don't worry if you notice something like this. It's very normal. So the next color is the lemon yellow. So I was initially thinking about putting all of these tubes inside an empty pan, but I think I'm going to skip doing that because I like the consistency of the colors currently. So if it is in the tube, it will stay much fresher. I hope I don't get the spelling wrong. This is the mauve, this is the lemon yellow. And then we'll move on to the yellow ochre. I'm not going to do the white, it's not necessary. I hardly get to use white unless I'm making a painting where I need white in the terms of stars, or if I want to add it in an opaque feature anywhere. So the white tube is going to be useful, but maybe not directly in your watercolor painting. Never use white to mix it with any of these other colors to get a third color or a second color for that matter, because it is going to make it opaque. It is not going to leave it with the translucent effect or a transparent effect that you like with watercolors. So I would definitely not recommend you to mix your colors to get pastel shades. You get pastel palettes separately. If you've been following me for a while, you will be seeing, you would have seen lots of videos on different kinds of palettes. If not, you can go check out the different palettes that I use, and one of them will have the pastel. So this color over here is the carmine. So interestingly, they do not have the primary red. So I've noticed that in a lot of the lower range art supplies that they don't have the primary colors, which is very strange. So what primary colors will help you to do is to mix them to get all the other colors that are possible. So all your secondary, your tertiary, your complementary colors, everything you can get with mixing the primary colors. This is also a nice color. This here we are using is the chrome green. The next one is the viridian hue. You don't have to wash the palettes. You can keep them as it is, and whenever you're making the next painting, just pick up the colors from there. You can always reactivate it. That's the beauty of watercolors. Add a little bit of water and you're good to go. And when you're using tubes, one advantage is you don't have to be too quick. Like even if I have added a little bit of colors over here, I don't have to rush to wash and gradate them as much as I would do if I'm using cakes. There are of course some brands of cakes which are amazing. I love the White Nights one because it's very, like, it has this a lot of honey inside it which they use as a binder, so that really keeps your paint or your pigment really fresh. So I like that. The primer ones are also good, but but all of those are kind of in the higher range ones. So in the lower range ones, I would still recommend you to go with tubes as compared to cakes, unless you're somebody who feels like, I travel with my paint, so I would like to have a solution where I can carry it around with me easily without it creating a mess. And also, if you have kids or you want to gift it to a kid who you think will not be able to manage the tubes very well. So here are all of my colors. I'm going to quickly name all of them, and we're going to move on and create a very cute little painting with all of these colors next. So here are what the final swatches look like once they have dried. They look pretty bright and nice. Of course, there's a little bit of chalkiness here and there, but that's all right. It's not too bad. So we are now going to make a very quick painting. I'm going to draw a couple of shells and we will paint them with different colors and see how it looks. So I'm using again the same 300 GSM notebook to create these shells. You can just create anything. You don't have to make it perfect. just remember that you need to have fun, and that's what I'm going to do right now. I just want to have a lot of fun. So here are two huge shells. I'm planning to add them and create them in multicolor using all of these colors that I have over here. So let's pick out our brushes and we'll start painting. So what I'm doing now is to activate the paint. I've added like a little bit of a dot of water everywhere. So in the first shell, I am going to do wet on wet, where I'm going to take some water, apply it first as a base layer on this entire shell, and then I'm going to just pick colors and then drop it. We'll see how they also merge with each other. So what I'm doing is I'm just diluting my colors and picking and dropping them over here. So what happens is it merges with the white of the paper, wherein you're able to see some transparency in the colors, and you'll also see that since there's water over here already, it is able to merge and move by itself. So I'm going to pick a couple of colors. You can put them either nearby or a little bit on top of it. You don't have to go too much over it. You would want the base color of the yellow to be seen. You want a little bit of the white to be seen. So you just go around that way. One more thing with this technique is you really don't know how the final color is going to look like, because once it dries and all the water evaporates, it will tend to get a little lighter. So keep that in mind whenever you're using a technique like this. So I added some green right now, and I'm going to add some blue. So the blue will merge with the rest of the colors and probably create a third color. So be a little mindful when you are using this technique. Once this dries, we will use a pen and then create an outline. That part is again completely up to you. If you want to skip that part, you can. So while this dries out, I'm going to start coloring this. So for this one, I'm going to pick out this purplish color over here, and I'm going to do gradations. I've added a little bit of color. Now I have washed my brush. I'm just using the water to drag the paint. Washing my brush again. Just have some water. Don't take too much water, because then it's going to take a long time to dry, and the second thing is you don't really need so much water. Just very little is enough for you to drag the color out. With watercolor, it is always layering. So you go from lighter to dark. So now I've picked up a little bit of darker color and I'm adding that. Because my base is still wet, you'll notice now that it starts acting like wet on wet. So it's not wet on dry anymore. To add like a fun element to it, what I'm going to do is I'll probably add a little bit of this viridian hue. And we'll see how like the colors merge with each other. Okay. So what I'm going to do is wait for a couple of minutes for this entire thing to dry out, and then we will use our pen and do an outline. Alright, so now you can see that this has dried out. This is still slightly wet, so we'll start doing an outline for this one. So you can notice that after it's dried out, the colors have diluted a little bit because the water has evaporated. Also, if you look over here, the merging of the colors is not very good, but it's also because these are not exactly professional grade paint. So for the purpose that they are doing, I think it's all right. And this has also come out quite well. It's not become muddy. So that way I'm quite happy with the results. So let's start doing an outline for this one. So I'm using a Uniball Air Micro. This is one of the pens that I use generally for doing doodles and outlines. You can also use a Micron pen. So I'm going to add some exciting details on top of it. So personally, I really like adding details in the end this way, because I think it just elevates the entire artwork. This is again an optional thing to do. here is the second one. This is not waterproof, so if there is water, it is going to bleed in. So I'm just hoping that the entire thing is dried out. Some basic patterns that I'm adding on top of shell, just to give it like a nice, interesting effect. So in this one, it's this way. So this is what my final painting looks like. I'm quite happy with these paints. So if you're somebody who's a beginner or somebody who's going from intermediate, from beginner towards intermediate, and you're on a budget, then I would suggest you to try these out. It is not a bad piece of art supply to get. Just make sure that whenever you get an art supply like this, create a lot of different kinds of paintings. Don't worry about the end result. It's more for you to get your hands on to understanding how to use watercolors, and you can move on from there to picking up different kinds of art supplies. And once you get really good at it, you'll be able to invest into the more expensive ones and find better final results. So enjoy key painting, create lots of beautiful art, and I hope today's video was useful for you. I'll see you soon for the next one. Bye bye.